What do I need to be good at to be great at something?
Hello, everyone. You are listening to She Leads with Carly, and in this show, we talk to the absolute best, brightest, and yes, badass leaders.
Tap into where your natural curiosity takes you. Just making sure you're not your own roadblock. Even if you do fall, you're going to fall and you're going to learn.
Together, let's build a DNA of what it takes to rise to the top and truly make an impact. I'm your host, Carly Malatsky. Hello, everyone. I am incredibly excited to welcome our guest today, Kaitlyn Trabucco. Kaitlyn is a product manager for Nextdoor, an app for neighborhoods where you can get local tips, buy and sell items, and just interact with your local fellow neighbors. Prior to Nextdoor, she was a PM at Twitter on their revenue and ads monetization team. Besides her product roles at these top well-known companies, Kaitlyn has also been at the forefront of creating a product from 0 to 1 as a founder. She founded EduSense back in 2013, where she built an educational marketplace for teachers and parents globally. EduSense saved educators over $20 million and helped more than 500,000 teachers, homeschoolers, and parents gain access to educational materials all in one place. While Kaitlyn sees Nextdoor as her day job, you will learn that a lot of her time before and after work goes towards Looky Lou, a toy that finally gets your kids to smile at the camera, a problem that many parents likely experience today or experienced in the past when their kids were little. And as you may expect, this may have stemmed from Kaitlyn's personal experience after her son was born. Kaitlyn received her bachelor's from Gordon College, where she played for the women's lacrosse team, and her MBA from Mills College. Kaitlyn, I am so excited to have you on the show. Welcome. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Carly. It's an honor to be here.
Of course. So first, set the scene. Where are you in the world? What are you up to? How's it going?
I am sitting in sunny Santa Barbara, California. I have a beautiful view of the mountains here. I was in the Bay Area for almost a decade, and then we made a dramatic pandemic move to be closer to family and closer to nature. We love it here.
Love it. Yeah. I think during the pandemic, COVID, I think a lot of people made some big shifts, big moves, wherever that may take them. So that's awesome.
Yes, we were right in Haight-Ashbury, like right in the center of San Francisco. I was pregnant with our second, and I joke we only lasted 2 weeks, but it wasn't a joke. By April 1st, we were down here, like looking for a little bit more space. And so it's been a really nice reprieve.
Amazing. So, okay, Kaitlyn, what I love to do is I want to go all the way back to 5-year-old Kaitlyn or 10-year-old Kaitlyn. How were you as a little girl? What did you want to be when you grew up? What was exciting to you then?
You know, when I think of my childhood, I was Katie back then, but I can't think of my childhood without immediately thinking of my mom and just the impact on me and who I am now. She's just such a force to be reckoned with. She was an entrepreneur herself. She was such a hard worker. She built her own life and wealth, and she had strong opinions, and she just is an inspiration to me. And there's no doubt who I am today came from so many lessons that she taught me. My dad was there too. He has 50% impact, and he was a wonderful influence. Actually, he was a product manager as well. So I attribute a lot of my business lessons to him and to my mom. But I was thinking of a cute story that, well, this isn't that cute, but I'm thinking of a story that I think like kind of represents my mom and the lessons that she taught me. So I was coming home from school. I must have been like 8 or 9 or something, and these boys were chasing me home from the bus with snowballs. We lived in Massachusetts. It was the middle of winter, and they were like pelting me with these snowballs. And so I would come in the house and I was like dripping wet. I'm sure I was near tears. Like these boys just like, snowballs can really hurt. So this happened for a few days. And on day 3, I come in the house, sopping wet. These boys are chasing me with these snowballs. And my mom is standing there with a carton of eggs. And she looks at me and goes, "Go get them." And I like took these raw eggs and go start pelting these neighborhood boys with eggs. And I'm sure my mom got a few phone calls from parents that evening. But I think it was just like it's just such like a funny story, but like such a beautiful example of how she's always been like, go get them, like, and just this belief in me and like pushing me to, I don't know, be aggressive, stand up for myself, have fun with things, like
Yeah.
don't let yourself kind of be picked on. And especially I think as like a female, right? Like just pushing back on all of the boundaries and um, stereotypes. So
Yeah. I love that. That one story, I love your mom already. I think that's amazing. That's great. And then during this time, were there any, because obviously we'll get into it, but you definitely have that entrepreneurial spirit. You founded, two companies essentially. Did you have that growing up too? Were you selling things on the side? Were you creating your own little businesses?
not really, no. And it's funny because also on the flip side, my dad was the exact same career since he was 18 and then, retired from that same company. So like that was also the model that we saw in our house. But okay, so my brother is an entrepreneur too. There's two of us, and he is also a venture backed founder, and he's
Got it.
wildly more successful than me. And even though he's 4 years younger, which is not fair, but he's had a very successful exit and he's doing his second company now. And so him and I have reflected on like, what is it about necessarily our childhood that we both became these entrepreneurs when, we kind of saw our dad just do one track. He had a great 401k and, and pension, etc. And
Right.
one thing I've attributed it to is we grew up in a household with not a lot of rules. Like there wasn't a lot of no's. And not to say that we were wild, but it was always a conversation. It was always like, "Hey, we don't think this is the right decision or the right thing to do. Like here are the pros and cons, here are the risks. Like let's chat about it." And these are the reasons why we're you know, saying one thing or another. And
Yeah.
it was never a because I said so type household. And I think that really challenged my or enabled my brother and I to look at rules and laws and be like, well, why? Like, why is that in place? Like, let's talk about it. Let's talk about like the risks and the,
Yeah.
opportunities and challenges, whatever. I chat so often with friends now where an idea will come up and so quickly someone will shoot out a no, like, oh, you can't do that because x, you can't, like, you would get in trouble because of y, like that would never work because of whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think back a lot of my childhood how that just wasn't a part of the rhetoric. And I think that's been a huge factor in my brother and I being able to take risks and like think of things differently, think of the
Yeah.
business model from all different angles.
I I really love that. And I think actually when I think back on even the guests I've had on the show, I think that actually may be a commonality, right? Like this natural instinct to one question and challenge things and then also be in an environment where you're like treated like an adult in a way and being able to just speak up and say no, this doesn't make sense to me. Let's go deeper. That's awesome.
Have a
So
voice, yeah.
yeah, exactly. So then take me through, you went to Gordon College and you played lacrosse as well. So obviously I can understand that experience being a student athlete in college is a whole different world. Take me a little bit through that and the lessons you learned there that you can definitely see apply in your real world professional career.
Oh, Carly, this is my favorite subject. And yes, when I saw you were a student athlete too, I was like, oh my goodness, I can't wait to talk about this. Whew, I get so passionate about this because I always say that I learned more about business on the lacrosse field than I did in business school. And like, you learn how to win, you learn how to lose, you learn teamwork, you learn how to coach, you learn how to be coached, you learn how to put people in areas and play to their strengths versus like play to their weaknesses, right? And like you wouldn't put the goalie in as a striker because you want them to improve in that area, right? You learn perseverance, you learn how to work with people you don't like, and you learn how to, have hard this is my favorite, like the hard conversations. Like again, as a student athlete,
Yeah.
probably some of your best friends in the world are the women you played, were your teammates. But we would scream at each other, we would yell at each other, like, Kaitlyn, get down and get the ball, like, you know what I mean? But then we leave it all in the field. And there was just such a like trust and bond of like quick feedback that was just like ingrained in us at such a early age. And then so I was never the best, and I still don't consider myself the best in a lot of different areas, especially when it comes to product management. I'm never going to be the most technical. I was never the best, but I could work my ass off. And I
Mm,
could work my ass off, and I had this innate ability to encourage people, cheerlead, be like, "Hey, Carly, I think you're really good at X," and push you in that direction. Like I had this, I guess you could say, emotional IQ that knew how to get the team to be successful, and it wasn't necessarily my pure like techniques of it never was, and it still isn't, but I still think I have that ability to like look at the team, read the room, and like know what we need to do to win.
yeah. And I completely agree. And even you kind of touched on it, but one thing I'll even add is those hard conversations, not only just having them, but also you learn almost how to message the same concept, but message it in a different package to different people. Because some people may love, being yelled at and getting that encouragement through, maybe negative talk, even saying it has to be better, versus others may love saying like, you know what, keep it up. It's okay. Move forward. Like people make mistakes. So anyway, I think that's another big part of it.
100%. Yes, you and I could probably have like a whole
Easy.
podcast session just on like the sports application to
Yeah.
yeah, business.
So I have a question though for you is what advice would you give student athletes who actually are terrified in a way to go into business or tech or, real world and leave the sports behind? Because oftentimes it's your whole identity, right? You don't know what else you can do. But if they only knew that actually these skills that we learn do apply so well into the real world and into obviously real world as a quote, whatever that may be. But do you have any advice for people that are really making that transition?
Well, the thing I can think of that comes to mind is, and this is similar. Like I've learned this. I've been graduated from college for a long time. I left it on the field a long time ago. And a similar theme is the world is small, and your connections and your networks matter. So, like you can imagine, 5, 10 years out of college, like the my lacrosse players are the ones that kind of hired me. And then my like, then the next sport in
Mm,
college were the ones that like helped you get promoted. And you kind of had this like circle. So it's like find those people because they are going to be your like network, and they continue to like help you grow in your career. And so I think when I first became a manager too, I would like see um uh, athletic, they played sports on their resume. I'm like, okay, cool, like I'm gonna hire you right away. So I there's such an strength and an aspect to that, everything we just talked about, right? Like learning
right.
teamwork, like working hard, like understanding those like hard conversations, all of that, like put that on your resume, like play to those strengths. Like those are something that's such an asset to companies and teams, and there's so much to be incorporated there. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I
my
love that.
advice would be like, dive into that, use that as an asset.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And not only that, tapping into that network of others who've done that and been in that path. Because, yeah, I think that's great. And so, what made you at this point in college, obviously, after you decide to get an MBA, were you like, okay, I'm going to be an entrepreneur? This is my path? Or how were you thinking of your career? Was product management even an option then? How are you thinking of things?
Okay, so I don't think you and I had chatted about this prior, but so I worked for Tiffany and Company right out of college, the jewelry store. I always used to say like me and Sarah Jessica Parker could like run around in heels, and it was so fun. I worked in operations there, and then when the earthquake happened in Haiti, it dramatically changed my heart in a lot of ways. And I was like, what am I
Oh,
doing in life? And I'm working with the richest of the rich, and here's this horrible tragedy. And so I sold everything, and I went and lived in Haiti for a while, doing microfinance. And there's where my heart really saw the beauty of entrepreneurship. Like, Haiti,
wow.
among many other countries, you don't just go get a job, right? Like you don't go fill out a job application. It is entrepreneurship. It's like 90% the country is entrepreneurship. So that's what like really broke my heart for entrepreneurship. But then I also saw the lack of education, right? And like the access and like
Wow.
the online ability to get, online classes, whatever, education, right? And so that's when I went back to go get my MBA, because I kind of felt like I owed it to, well, so let me also say the other thing that broke my heart was women entrepreneurship. Like, goodness gracious, those women in third world countries getting those microfinance loans were like kicking butt and taking numbers, right? And so like I just felt like I owed it to the women in Haiti that don't have access to education to go get my MBA. I was like, I can do this. All I have to do is fill out some paperwork and like ask for a loan and like you can go to school, right? And so anyway,
Right.
I went back and I got my MBA, and I specifically focusing in an entrepreneurship program. But I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. I was like, oh, these people are crazy, right? Like, you talk to some entrepreneurs and it's like they got their head in the clouds. I was like, that is not me. I will always be the operational person. And so that's when I met my co-founder is in our MBA program, and she is very much so the like entrepreneur, like true like definition of an entrepreneur, and I was always
Yeah.
the operational person, right? So I put together a lot of the tech, I did a lot of the back end stuff. But then through the years of working together, at one point, Carly, I was like, wait, I'm an entrepreneur. Like, I'm doing this too. I'm not just, my co-founder's like counterpart where she's out doing all the sales and all the, head in the cloud vision stuff. Like, I'm doing it too. And so that was really what I don't know. I took stock one day and I was like, looked around. I was like, wait a second. Like, I think I'm that crazy entrepreneur that I never wanted to be, but it's me. I'm doing it.
Yeah. And also getting started, did you have people around you that were saying like, look, Kaitlyn, like it's great and you have a vision, but this is also crazy and you should probably go get a job and be more secure? Did you have those type of people, or were
Oh,
you like,
yeah.
yeah, how did you deal with that and say like, no, this is a problem I have to solve?
Oh, I mean, goodness gracious. I mean, I just like sung my mom's praises, but like, you better believe my mom was like, wait, you're not going to get a 401k after like your, MBA, or you're not going to go make some good money.
Right.
Yes, and no. I also though feel like the people that I like truly respected their opinion got it and saw the vision, and they were like, yeah, do it for 3 months, and if it doesn't work out, go do something else. And that's what like. I don't know. I always try to encourage entrepreneurs or people who are scared of the big idea, or so scared of like the next month, the next 3 months, the next 6 months. I'm like, well, try it for a week. Like, see if you like doing it. Like, because a lot of times you try something for a little while and you're like, this doesn't give me life. Like, I've tried writing a
Yeah.
book many times, and I'm like, I'm gonna write a book, and I get to doing it, and I'm like, you know what I don't like doing? Writing a book. So like, it's just one of those things you just have to go and you have to move yourself forward in this. And so anyway, we got started. We started building. Users were responding really positively. Like, we started getting traction, and it was like, okay, well now this thing has legs. Like, we got to keep going. And so, and I think the people around me saw that and encouraged it, and knew something was there, maybe even more so than I did.
Yeah. So, okay, I can take this in a couple different directions, but um so I know you guys decided 2 years in, around 2015, you decided to go through Y Combinator, and you went through the whole experience of raising venture dollars. You guys raised around 15 million, a little over, with you and your co-founder, an all-female team, which is amazing, especially at that time too. So take me through almost the headaches, the shit hitting the fan type of moment with EduSense that you were like, I need to step away. Like I don't know if I can do this.
Oh, that's such a good question. And thank you for asking that, because so often when I'm interviewed or I talk about education, people want to hear the highlights and just like all the like the glory stats, which they're there, but like really the essence of the story was the hard, like, I mean, 99% of the time was just like the hard slog. And yeah, so I guess like the long and short of what I think ended up happening with EduSense was we raised too much venture too early before we really had product market fit at too high of a valuation. So after Series A closed, we were hiring a bunch, and we just couldn't get the traction that we had in our seed round. And at that point we didn't have an option to like be, the 600-pound gorilla in, some niche little education field, right? We had to take the big swings. We had to go after the teacher market. We had to go after like these really big pockets. And we
Right.
couldn't do it. And yeah, the last like year and a half of EduSense was hard because we believed in the mission. We believed in what we were doing. I looked at female entrepreneurs on our website. So that was one of the parts I was so proud of. We empowered so many moms or teachers,
Yep.
or I think like 98% of our platform or something was female, where they could start their own product, and they launched it. We had one woman who had $1 million in revenue, who had started with like shipping stuff out of her garage. I was so proud of that, and I was so proud of our mission. I believed in EduSense and what we were doing, but we just we had so many ideas. We wanted to be social, and we wanted content, and we just kind of threw it
Right.
all at, we sprinted at that, right? And we just like we took our big swing and a missed. So,
Yeah.
but what's funny is we sold in 2019, and oh my gosh, me and my like investors and co-founder were all emailing when 2020 hit, because we were like, oh my gosh, what would be really great right now? Like an online platform for homeschooling and like special needs products and all of the things. So uh, timing is everything.
Got to run it back. Run it
Yes,
back.
yes.
Um, and so when you look at that experience, though, would you, in terms of like key milestones or points of change, would it be okay, maybe not raising so much venture dollars before product market fit? Because I definitely see that, especially now kind of wearing this investor hat. But how do you see it? Maybe slow down in that regard, or what would be like big changes?
Going back to the very, very beginning theme of like Kaitlyn as a 5-year-old old, and that
Yeah,
talking about my mother, I wish I had found my voice earlier. So, once we raised venture from you big bad VCs that, were so much smarter than us, and, had seen all the things and had a really strong voice in the room, I wish my co-founder and I had just said, like, no, we I don't know, shown what we didn't know, shown what we did know, and like just took more of a presence in the room, because I think if we had slowed down, we would have
yeah,
gotten there, right? And so I wish I had had maybe a little bit more confidence or gumption. And hindsight's 2020, right? Like I all of us founders, right, would look back and wish we had
yeah.
kind of done a few things differently. But that is one of the bigger life lessons I have brought with me and move forward, is like, trust your gut, because you are the only one. The founders are the only one that know the users. I don't care what other people are telling you or what other companies are doing, or like,
Investors.
why I applaud your question of like, tell me about the lowlights, is because we sat and we listened to so many founders talk about their highlights and what they did, and we would go back and be like, we have to do that too, like that person did this, and let's try that. Whereas like, you know what, we actually knew what we were doing, and I wish we had trusted our gut a little bit more, about what we knew it was right.
I also really love that you said just having a bigger voice, because I agree with you. I think even with this investor hat, obviously I haven't been on the founder table yet per se, but with that hat, you can totally see the investors having that excitement. And yeah, I think founders also feel that they need to kind of shrivel down potentially a little bit. And that's actually a reflection of the founder of saying, look, like this is your baby, this is your company. And so having that confidence and that ability to speak up and stay true to what you believe or what you feel, or at least going out there and researching and talking to many more people. So I love that. I think that's totally true. That's awesome. And how did you feel? Was that like after selling EduSense, after having it be acquired and in a sense behind you, was that like a moment of complete relief? Was it like excitement to move on to a next stage? How did you feel?
Oh, so much. And I still have feelings. Like,
Yeah.
what was it, 5 years ago now? I still am unpacking a lot that happened there. Yeah, there was a lot of feelings, but there was also so much freedom. So this
Yeah.
is part of my story, so I'll mention it. It's more on the personal side, but my husband and I have been trying to get pregnant for years. And that was like, and people used to say, it's stress. And I was like, I am not stressed. I used to live in Haiti and I got an MBA, and like, I'm not, do you think this is stress? Like, this is not stress. And the month that we sold EduSense is the month that we got pregnant. So I like,
Wow.
when I did the math, it's like I think of my daughter and this like really new birth and new baby that became out of EduSense, and it's all okay. It was a time and a place for me to like pour so much into EduSense. And now it's like it was such a shift. And so, and it's what brought me to Twitter. I like stopped, and I took some time off. I did the proverbial, travel. I tried to write a book, which never really came to fruition. Maybe one day it will, but
Yeah.
took some time to just rest my body and relax. And I know any founder on here like knows the founder burnout so well, right? So yeah, I rested, I relaxed, and I really felt like had I seen a company at scale, had I seen like the depth of product management and the various different organizations, I think actually EduSense could have been a little stronger so that once we hit scale, we didn't get as shaky as we did. And so
Wow.
that was when I really wanted to go get my like big tech experience. And that's where I started pursuing. And I also figured out through EduSense, I loved product management. I didn't even really know what product management was before I was a founder, and then working with engineers and like coming up with specs and requirements. And, I think I told you the story that one day my CTO came to me and was like, "Hey, Caitlin, like, I think it's time we hire a proper product manager." And I was like, "What's that?" And he was like, That's what you've been doing for the past few years." So anyway, point being is I went to go like shopping around and figuring out like where can I get this like pure product management experience, and like come to find out 5 years later now that I've been doing it, I love it so much. And it really is like people use the whole mini CEO thing, and I agree with it sometimes here and there, but like it does give me so much life in that I feel like I'm able to build and create and do all the things I did it as a founder
Yeah.
now as a product manager. And it's really fulfilling. I love being a product manager.
Yeah, I love that. And that's something I always wonder. One, I've definitely seen the similarities between product management and being a founder. I see very similar, the like almost a seamless-ish transition, if you will. But it's actually super fascinating to hear that having that experience at Twitter or wherever you are at a big company, seeing how a product goes from 0 to 1, is actually pretty conducive and helpful to becoming a founder. So that's pretty fascinating. That's great. And so at Twitter, first, was there some gravitational pull to the revenue team? I know you work at that also at Nextdoor. What was the passion behind that? Where does that stem from?
No, there was no gravitational pull. I will say that my hiring manager at the time, who I absolutely adore and I still think of him so fondly, saw the founder experience in me. And we were just getting like a conversational coffee one day, and he was like, "I want you on my team. Like, I want ex founders as product managers." And then was really able to kind of train me on the job about an ads marketplace and
Cool.
targeting and the like algorithms that go into serving an ad and making, Twitter was like a $3 billion company at the time. And so, um, yeah, so he was able to really kind of teach me about the ads ecosystem, and I love it. Oh my gosh, Carly, it's so fascinating and so complex, and I learn new things every day. And the like level of technical back end infrastructures that are needed to serve you that ad that you
Yeah.
see, and you're like, oh my gosh, how did they know that that was the thing that I wanted? Like, it is fascinating to me, and it's just been a really really fun kind of career journey to learn more about.
Yeah. So bringing it back to November of last year, you obviously experienced something that actually many, many, many people also experienced, where essentially Elon Musk took over Twitter and you got kind of the aftermath of that effect of that transition in leadership and everything else that comes with that. I'm so curious to know, almost just not even going so deeply into it, but of that experience, how much did you learn about just the type of leader that you want to be, or even the type of leader that you want to work for? What are aspects that you're like, I want to take that with me, or that's maybe something I need to, put aside, and that's actually not something I want to carry
Mm,
on?
gosh, yeah, RIP to my last 4 years at Twitter. It was, yeah, I mean, just to like acknowledge that for a moment. November
Yeah.
4th is when it all happened. A date that will live in infamy for me. But it was sad. It was really really tragic. There were a lot of tears with me and the thousands of others that this was impacting, right? And there still are. Like, whatever, that we could go down that rabbit hole of just really what a sad, how sad that
Yeah.
was for the employees of a company that we really freaking believed in what they were doing and what we were building. Okay, so there's that, right? Like we went through that kind of trauma, and
Yeah.
I am so thankful. and relieved now to work with kind people. And that sounds so fluffy, but like I cannot tell you how much wind that puts beneath my wings when like someone is just caring about you as a human, or like my how loyal I feel to the company right now. Like so and it starts from the top. Like I at Nextdoor, Sarah Fryer, our CEO,
Yeah.
goodness gracious, my jaw is on the ground every time that woman talks. Like she runs circles around other CEOs with her knowledge retention, with her understanding of the business model, like with her strategy that she can bring forth so quickly. But you know what? She also remembers every freaking detail of every person she's ever met. She can, see me in a meeting and remember things that we talked about months ago and bring them up so authentically. And I guess to answer your question, Carly, like the kindness and the treating people like humans and the assets that they truly are in a company matter. Like they absolutely
Right.
matter. And I think it matters to users. It has an impact on the product. It has an impact on like who you work with next. Like I talked about, like, there's the world is small. Networks are small, right? And the way that you treat people really matters. And the way that you it sounds cheesy, but it's so genuinely true. The way that you make people feel and the way that you can like bring them in,
Yeah.
like just like we were talking about on the lacrosse field or the soccer field, right? Like if you can make people feel like $1 million, like you get so much more out of that person than what I saw previously, which was just, hard. It was really hard leadership to watch.
Yeah. And okay, Kaitlyn, I'm going to make it our next challenge. We're going to try get Sarah on the podcast. All right. I
Oh,
would love to have her
we'll
on.
put it out there. We will put it
Okay.
out there.
Amazing. But I think that's such a good, I mean, I love that. And actually, even before when we first talked, you told me this amazing story of how she came into a room. She knew everyone's name from the, chief C-suite exec to the intern sitting at the table. Just like that's amazing. And that's really true leadership. So I really love
She's
that.
incredible. She's incredible.
Yeah. And then I guess moving forward, we have to talk about Looky Lou.
Okay, let's do it.
Tell me about Looky Lou. How did this happen? When did it come about, and how's it going now?
So Looky Lou,
Oh, it's so
I was
cute. I
trying
love it.
to, thanks. I was trying to take a photo of my sweet baby boy when he was a baby, and my husband made a comment where he was like, "They should make a bottle that attaches to your phone." And the bells just went off. And you probably know, or any other founder listening to this, is like when you can't stop thinking about an idea, that's when you should do it, right? Everyone always asks me, like, when will I know when I should pursue, X? And I'm like, you'll know. Like, you'll know. You won't be able to sleep. You won't be able to sleep. So I just started researching. I'm like, they should make a baby rattle that attaches to the phone. Why don't they do this? Like, we all act like idiots jumping around to get our kid to look. And it's like a problem that happens probably 12 times a day when you're a new mom or a new parent. Group photos, like I can't even tell you in the last 2 years amount of times people are like, I wish I had a Looky Loo right now. I'm like, yeah, lookyloo.com, check it out. But
Yeah.
anyway, and so I researched, and there's like 14 different products in the market like this for dogs, but there was nothing
Mm.
out there for babies. And so I was like, look, if they can sell this for dogs, I'm pretty sure I can make this product for babies. And so I went to work at figuring out how does one manufacture plastic and learning all about different types of plastics and baby safe plastics and
Yeah.
I like things that you like, thickness of things, like how much this needs to snap, like all these things that weren't as easy as they maybe come across. But it was such a fun, creative, hands-on project, especially as Twitter, like actually it's 420 that is the 1 year anniversary of when Elon started making his
Right.
moves. And so it was a really nice thing to have that I had control over, right? Like I think one of the hard things about being at a big company or not your own company is you don't have control over a lot. And so it was something that I could be creative, it could be hands-on. I was learning new skills, but like it was mine, and it still is mine. Um I will be hard pressed to ever take any kind of outside funding or whatever, because I really love the ownership of the company. And yeah, it's been a fun journey.
Yeah, I think that's also the entrepreneurship in you, or the founder in you, right?
Yeah.
Is like even at a PM at Twitter or Nextdoor, there's still that that seeking of, ownership of just your own thing and whatnot. And this is all you, right? You don't have a co-founder. I know your husband maybe tried to help you out in the beginning, but that didn't last too long.
No, he lasted a week. Yeah. Well, he's a phenomenal creative, and oh my goodness, I want to bottle him up. But for some people, it's just when you add the monetization to it, they're out. You know what I mean? And so I think that's kind of like he was like, look, I've had one too many 11 p.m. meetings where you want to talk about Looky Lou and whatever. Like, this does not bring me joy, and that
Right.
it. You know what? It brings me joy, and so I love working on it, and it's been super fun.
And how do you compare, obviously, EduSense software company, right? Like completely different process, going through YC, getting venture dollars, obviously to now, working in manufacturing, hardware, a whole different beast in a way. But how does it compare? What are some, positives compared to it?
Well, I'm definitely keeping my day job because
Okay.
software PMing is faster, easier.
True.
I don't know if I want to say more impactful, but I have found in the industry that I work in, like you can make really quick impact in software where hardware is just so much slower. The mistakes are so costly.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, my brother who I mentioned is an entrepreneur and he's all hardware. And we always just like, Dan, why is your product not on the market yet? And I never understood the cycles that it takes to just make one tiny little tweak and the hundreds of dollars that go against that one little tweak. And so um yeah, it's been a fun learning, and I love it as a side hustle, and we'll see where Looky Lou goes. I have a vision that it will sell in Nordstrom's one day. It will, be on Good Morning America someday. Like I'm putting that out there, just like we're gonna get Sarah
Love it.
Fire. Like we're gonna be in Nordstrom someday. But on the other hand, I like software feels a little easier and a little bit more fun. So yeah, I'll keep my day job.
It reminds me very much, or not very much, but essentially one thing I thought of was, speaking of getting into Nordstrom, reminds me of Sarah Blakely's story with Spanx. I don't know if you've heard of it,
Yes.
but essentially,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
okay, I love it. It was like in
Yeah.
the back of the store, and she was like, hell no, that's not going in the back of the store. We're going to move it right to the
I
checkout.
love her founding story.
Oh, it's
I am
amazing.
obsessed with her founding story. Yes, very similar, right? Like a mom, I had this need. I
Totally.
know plenty of women would buy this, and you just kind of have to have that vision and gumption to be like,
Yeah.
there's a there, you know?
Totally. And okay, Caitlin, I want to touch on, before we go on to more, fun questions, if you will, but as a mom, that brings a whole nother world into, your world essentially. And I'm so curious, if I know the question of work-life balance is, kind of getting outdated in a way, and people see it as a harmony and whatnot, but especially as a woman having this almost biological clock, if you will, how did that come into it? How do you see balancing your life as a mom of two young kids? What's kind of, I don't know. I don't necessarily have a directed question. I'm just curious how that experience goes for you in a way.
Yeah. Well, it's such a whew, maybe that's what the book should be about someday because it's such a hard
Yeah.
question and it changes day to day, like month to month, year to year, in terms of like motherhood and career and the work life, the balance of it all. And so let's see, how do I summarize? Like, so I'll say prior to getting pregnant with my daughter, I was terrified, absolutely terrified. I would think about it constantly and be like, how could you ever? And I would look at these women and I would just like bug-eyed be like, how do you do it? Um,
Yeah.
and to be frank too, I don't feel like I even really had that many mentors. I would look around for the women that have it, are doing it and have the balance or whatever. And then all of a sudden I would see like get their like resignation email, or I would see that they like took time off to raise their kids, or I don't know. It was hard to find the mentors that were really doing it. And they're out there. They are out there. They're probably hundreds of women that you have interviewed that are absolutely doing it. So I guess I'll say that as encouragement. It is there. It's there. And I will say too, once I had my daughter, oh my goodness, like my career, let's see, I didn't have as much time, but I was so much more productive. And I
Mm.
could be like, all right, like we don't have time to chit chat people. Like I got my 8 hours where I have my nanny, like we got to get this done. Right. And so I think it did not hinder my career. It made me so much more productive in my
Yeah.
career. Um, and then I will say, like, to paint a real picture, my husband and I always say, let me also stop and give credit to my phenomenal partner, who is just, we are 50-50. We do this together. We are in parenthood together. But we both say, like, we have 2 kids now. We both work full time. We both are busy, and we feel like we're up to here all of the time and just like surviving. And we can only prioritize a few things. So yes, some things had to drop in our life, right? Like their social aspects or certain friend groups or whatever that we just had to drop. And so, there is a priority system that happens when you have kids, but it's
Right.
it's it's worth it. I love being a mom and
Yeah.
having my career. It's something that's so deeply part of my identity.
No, I love that. And I think it's so real. And I've actually heard this a couple times of saying you become more productive. You don't, there's no bullshit, no time for bullshit. You just go through it and you're more productive, which is great. Um, so I love that. So I appreciate you saying that. Okay, Kaitlyn, what would you say is your superpower?
The first thing that's coming to mind is like get stuff done. Like I said before, like I am not the best. I am not the best. I'm not the most technical, but like give it to me and I will get it done. Like I push things through. I am the executor. Like, I mean, look at Looky Lou, for example, right? It's like just you have to power through. And like I think about that a lot. My PM superpower, right, is like I will figure a way to get this thing shipped.
I love it. And what would you say is your almost contrarian yet high conviction opinion that you carry?
Oh my goodness. Wow, great question. Um I'm so over Brussels sprouts. I feel like every single time we go out to dinner like within a big group, people will be like, "Oh, we should order the Brussels sprouts, right?" I'm like, "No, this was like a trend 8 years ago. Like I'm so over Brussels sprouts." So I know it's like
All
an
right.
unpopular opinion, but no more Brussels
Well,
sprouts.
well, Caitlin, you haven't tried my mom's Brussels sprouts,
Oh
so
God, no, not you
so
too.
so that's the only thing I'll say. Yeah, every time I go home, I'm like, Mom, can you make Brussels sprouts? Anyway,
No, yes.
um,
See, it is contrarian. I know I say it, and like, oh my other one too is I'm so over outdoor dining. I live in Santa Barbara. I People are like, you're over outdoor dining. I'm like, it is cold. My food gets cold. I want an intimate setting inside. There's no more COVID. Like, let's get inside and just be cozy.
even the concept of something that I really appreciate about non-outdoor dining is just the concept of like hearing the other person, like being in a place where you can just talk and hear them. And yeah, so I understand that. Okay, final question. What craft are you right now spending almost a lifetime trying to hone?
Let's see, two things. One, I am dedicated to the gym. It is my like I go at 6 in the morning. So it's not because I'm like cool. It's because it's literally the only time I can go. And I just think fitness and
Yeah.
health is my lifetime like dedication, and I'm gonna chip away at again, Carly. I'm not good. I'm not good. Don't ask me like what cool things I'm doing in the gym. I'm not the best. I just will chip away at it, and like I said, I will work hard at things. I will never necessarily be succeed. And then my other one is I am the world's worst cook. Like like genuinely just don't even like cooking. Like it is like nails on a chalkboard to me. Like people always love to talk about what they're cooking, what they're eating, and I'm like, I don't do it. I don't do it. I hate cooking. But someone challenged me recently and they were like, cooking's something you kind of have to do for the rest of your life. So you just have to learn to like it. So I'm trying to learn how to like cooking and like, I don't know, get a few things under my belt that I can actually maybe cook well,
Yeah.
which like there's nothing under my belt right now.
No, I love that. And I can honestly relate to both of those. I feel very similar. So that's great. Okay, I lied. One very quick question, purely out of curiosity. Do you make your bed in the morning? This is like more of a, okay,
That is,
the answer is no.
oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassingly messy. You should even see my desk right now. But do you know what? I love it. I love a little bit of chaos. Like it makes me actually feel a little bit more comforted when there's just like things askew. It makes me, I don't know, it makes me feel a little bit more in control of things.
It's organized
Yes,
chaos almost is what it seems
yes,
like. Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Caitlin, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I've absolutely loved it. So really appreciate you coming. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Carly. It was so fun.
Thank you so much for listening to the show this week. If you enjoyed, please spread the word. Tell someone about She Leads or post about it on social media and tag us. If you want to contact us, feel free to send over a message through the She Leads Instagram page at sheleads.show. If you want to follow us on Twitter, our account is at SheLeadsShow, and mine is at Carly Malatsky. This episode was produced and edited by Nick Verschow. Thank you also to our partner, Floodgate. If you're passionate about startups and want to learn more about the starting journey of those who have built groundbreaking companies, I highly recommend listening to Starting Greatness with Mike Maples Jr., the founding partner of Floodgate. He has an incredible show that, in my opinion, is definitely worth your time. Thanks again.